Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CANTO Conversations. My name is Julian Wilkins, Government Relations and Public Affairs Director at Digicel Group and former chairman of CANTO. I am your moderator this morning. Today, we're going to zoom in on the Commonwealth of Dominica, the nature isle of the Caribbean. Our guest speaker is Nikima Jno Baptiste, CEO of Digicel Dominica. Nikima is going to share her viewpoints on how organizations can innovate and can navigate through these current challenging times. Nikima, welcome to CANTO Conversations.
I'm on mute. Technology again, right? Thank you, Julian. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much to CANTO for doing, I think, this much needed and very timely series across the region.
Well, it's great to actually see you, Nikima. I was getting a little worried there. So nice to see you, and welcome to CANTO Conversations. And to the audience, please just remember you can post your questions in the chat, and please mute your microphones so that we can continue the conversation. And I'm going to ask Teresa if she can help me a little bit with the questions, as I've had some technical difficulties myself, and I'm actually using my mobile right now. So Teresa, maybe you can help me with the questions as they're posted. So, Nikima, let's begin. And actually, I'd like to do a question on women in ICT. Nikima, you're actually the second woman CEO that we've had on CANTO Conversations. Last week, we had Sayo James Alexandra, your friend, and CEO of Digicel St. Lucia on the webinar. So could you give us some of your background and maybe offer some advice to young Caribbean women who are making a career in ICT, in the ICT industry?
Thanks, Julian. And I think it's a hard task to follow in the shoes of Sayo or Siobhan. And Siobhan is not just my friend. She is a very respected colleague. She's one of my mentors. She's one of my coaches. She's been doing this much longer than me. And Sayo has a longer journey within ICT than I do. So I started in ICT just about 6 years ago, when I was recruited out of the Discover Dominica Authority, which is the tourism arm of the government. So it was never my dream to get involved in ICT. I actually studied hospitality management, and I was brought into Digicel as the customer care manager following our acquisition of our fixed services business here in Dominica. And as I got more involved, my dreams and my goals within the business continued to evolve. And I think that was twofold. One was Digicel gave me the opportunity to grow and to do different things. And Digicel also gave me the opportunity to utilize the skill sets I had gained in the other industries that I had worked, including tourism, including hospitality, including marketing, to be able to apply that towards ICT and what it was to be a telecommunications operator. And, you know, as a Black woman in ICT, that comes with the challenges, obviously, not maybe so much in Dominica, but you definitely see it when you travel internationally. And I am so proud and so honored to be the leader of this phenomenal business here in Dominica, and of course, a phenomenal team. And because I recognize that I'm one of few, not necessarily within Digicel, because we have a number of female CEOs within Digicel, but one of few internationally. I've taken that responsibility seriously in terms of ensuring that my voice is heard, in encouraging other young women and young girls to get involved and see the opportunities and to understand that there is a path and there is an opportunity that is available for them to lead. And, you know, last year was, I think, one of the most amazing experiences for me within my journey, not just as Digicel, but in ICT, when I was nominated as one of 7 women for the Women in ICT Awards from Total Telecoms.
Wow,
and I didn't win.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't win.
That's a great achievement. Great achievement.
Absolutely, and you know, it's phenomenal that they took the opportunity to recognize us. And again, I didn't win, but to be one of 7, that's a win for me. You know, that's a phenomenal achievement, a phenomenal win for me, and to be surrounded.
I think a win for the Caribbean as well.
Absolutely, a win for all of us, right? And like when I went into the award ceremony was in London. When I went there, to be surrounded by such phenomenal women that had such breadth of expertise and experiences, and to be part of that conversation, there's a place for us. And I think what needs to happen is that we need to continue encouraging each other and encouraging those that are coming up in that same line.
Wonderful. I think that's great inspiration for any young Caribbean women listening to this webinar. I think that's really excellent. So let's just dive in a little bit and just to let me ask you, really, how has COVID-19 affected you in the Digicel Dominica? And in terms of your operations, and then maybe you can talk a little bit about your revenue. How has that really impacted you?
So COVID-19, I refer to it like the worst movie ever, the worst horror movie ever, that always has a new plot twist to it, right? Just when you think you kind of have your feet under you, something else comes along in 2020 that just kind of knocks you off your balance a little bit. So COVID-19, first of all, who would have ever thought that we would be going through a global pandemic? And one of the major challenges with COVID is the fact that all of us are going through it at the exact same time. So it's not possible to kind of look for the benchmark of best practices to be able to reference as you continue navigating how you carry on business as usual. So Digicel is fortunate that we have a business continuity management team, of which I'm the chairman, that very quickly was able to rally together to determine how we move forward under these unprecedented circumstances. And we rolled out our work from home protocol very quickly. So in Dominica, for example, as an essential business, we continued operating even throughout the extensive restrictions that were put in place by the government. And I always had a small team that was on site, whether at the offices or at our warehouse, on sites, to be able to facilitate the essential service that we provide and respect. And you know, the great thing for us is that we were able to utilize technology to really drive our business objectives. And we were prepared, you know, over the last number of years following Hurricane Maria, we would have rebuilt a brand new fiber network. So that was, that provided the capability for connectivity, not just for us, but also for our customers. Last year, we rolled out an upgraded LTE network. So again, increased capacity would be available for persons to really stay in touch, do what they needed to do, and importantly, do the things they love. And last year as well, we would have signed a landmark opportunity with the government of Dominica after an international tender process where we were selected to rebuild the government's ICT infrastructure and importantly, upgrade them towards 21st century technology. So all of these different things really set up Dominica to be able to navigate these unprecedented circumstances with the restrictions, with the social distancing, with the work from home, with the increased need for that data and that connectivity opportunity. So I would assume that Dominica is no different. You know, the market has been severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, you know, on one end, we've implemented these strict measures to contain the spread of the virus. But on the other hand, those restrictions have also hampered our economic activity and economic atmosphere. However, we continue to navigate through ensuring that at the center of everything we do and how we move forward, that our customers continue to be our #1 priority, along with our teams. The safety and security of our teams and our customers in the countries within which we operate will always be the #1 priority for us.
I mean, I've actually going to come back to you on a few things you mentioned there, Nikima, but I just wondered, how was the working from home experience? How did the staff adapt to that generally? How did you find that?
Very quickly, very quickly. You know, one of the things that, if you follow me on LinkedIn or even any of my social media platform, you know, I genuinely believe I have the best team like that ever existed. And, you know, we've been through a lot as a team over the last number of years, and we've built up a really strong, resilient culture. So when this came up, the team really responded well, and I need to give a huge shout out to every single member of my team because, again, as an essential service, they had to put themselves out there and put themselves at risk to keep those services available to our customers, to ensure that our customers got what they need, and they responded greatly. I've seen no reduction in productivity whatsoever. In 90%, 99%, almost 100% of instances, you actually see an increased productivity level, appreciating these are such unique circumstances, and the response rate and the adaptation of the solutions and the technologies. And another great thing that I've seen come out of this is that the level of collaboration across the teams is increasing as you can no longer just get off your desk and stand up and go have a conversation, right? So you tend to reach out a little bit more often and have those kind of conversations towards achieving the mutual objectives and goals. So I think we've responded really well. And I think, again, this is, as devastating as this situation is, and similar to kind of like our mantra coming out of Hurricane Maria, there's opportunity available within every circumstance. And I would really like to commend my team for seizing those opportunities to be able to drive our collective objectives forward. And again, importantly, ensuring that we are available for our customers, including the government of Dominica and including our country, to continue providing them with what they need.
Do you see, I mean, that's really quite interesting. And I wondered whether you see some of your staff maybe working from home permanently or most of the time, or how do you see that projecting out into the future? Because obviously some will come back to the office, etc.
Yeah.
But
so Digicel is, of course, a very dynamic and innovative company, and we'll continue adjusting ourselves as the circumstances require us to. So we've actually started undertaking a return to the office, but again, to ensure that we are meeting the government guidelines and the health guidelines associated with COVID, we're doing it on a rotation basis to ensure that we can adhere to the social distancing policy. And a number of my team members are actually on the field providing the services that are available. So it's a small team, administrative team that we require in the offices as well as our retail space. And we're going to continue to, you know, adjust as we continue to learn to coexist with COVID. But the important thing for us is ensuring that, again, safety and security is paramount, following the health guidelines, following the government guidelines, and adjusting our operations to suit accordingly.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's just refocus a little bit on your network. And so what have you been doing to ensure that the critical network infrastructure remains working throughout this challenging time? Are there certain things you've been able to do?
So again, it's important to note that coming out of Hurricane Maria, and that's kind of like the flashpoint for Dominica, right? So you have pre-Maria and you have post-Maria. Coming out of Maria, it was absolutely essential for us to ensure that in rebuilding and recovering, we build a more resilient network. And Dominica has 3 distinct networks. We have our mobile network as well as our fixed services network. And of course, now we have the Government of Dominica network. So in rebuilding those 3 and in upgrading those 3, we ensured that we put resilient measures in place. So for example, we have taken our fiber underground, our core fiber connectivity from our landing station into our head end and our core underground to ensure
excellent.
that in spite of any threats, that core infrastructure would continue to be available. And then again, with the new networks we've built, obviously capacity would have been built to support that as well. And then again, just going back a little bit with me, my team, with Digicel, understanding that we're in essential services, all our COVID measures and protocol would have ensured that the essential services continue to be available. And that includes, the rotation of staff, the splitting of the teams, to ensure that like our technicians don't have the ability to co-contaminate each other, and therefore we would end up without a technician if there's an outage. So those type of measures would have been put in place to be able to support us continuing to provide the essential services that we do.
So just to get my understanding, you actually put, after Maria, you actually put your core network basically underground.
Yeah. So we did a couple of different things. So for those of you who know Dominica, our head end is located at our offices, and our landing station is located just outside of the capital city. And we've taken that entire track underground to ensure that connectivity remains. After Maria, we also built our fiber ring around the entire island, as well as connecting our cell sites to that ring, so they have that backbone support. And with a fiber to the home and a fiber to the business opportunity and network available, we're providing resilience to that. And then also, as we look to the hurricane season, appreciating that we are in the hurricane season, and we've already had 3 named storms, 4 recently actually. The government contract that we would have signed also provides a number of levels of resiliency to the government, including not just fiber, but you have microwave, you also have a satellite backbone as well, ensuring that the government can stay connected regardless of what opportunity or what threat should present itself.
Okay. Well, I must say, I've been to Dominica several times, and I look forward to the day when I can return, because it sounds like you've got a really solid network there that is ready for anything. After all, we are in the hurricane season, which in itself is something, we've got COVID, but we've also well into the hurricane season. And I don't know whether you're putting in extra measures. How do you cope with both stresses? How are you COVID as well as the hurricane season? We had, and in Antigua, we had the Sahara dust the last few days. I mean, thank goodness today, as I look out, I can actually see the clouds for a change. So how do you handle that? It's...
Yeah, so Julian, 2020, the gift that keeps on giving, right? Like, again, when you think you kind of made it out of one circumstance, you end up with another one. And the Saharan dust, although a lot of persons took it like, oh, it's just some dust in the air, the impacts to our technicians could have been grave. Like, I have a number of technicians that have pre-existing respiratory issues.
If they have asthma or whatever, it could be a real problem.
And allergies and all those kind of different things. So what have we done? It's important to note that when we rolled out our COVID protocols, we utilized the foundation of our business continuity plans that's where we started from, and we built on top of that. And even as we continue to move through the preparation for the 2020 hurricane season, it's taking what's there and evolving and adjusting it, and closing the gaps and learning from the past experiences, and also importantly, learning from others within the industry, within the region, that have good suggestions and good thoughts. So one of the things we've been doing within Digicel is over the last number of weeks and months, we've been hosting masterclasses with our market crisis management teams and sharing different information with them and utilizing subject matter experts to be able to share best practices and any kind of alerts or warnings, whatever the case may be. So a couple weeks ago, we had the UE Seismic Research Center that was on with us. So one of the things to note is that, you know, seismic activity within the region has increased dramatically over the last number of years. And Hickam Jenny seems to be kicking it a little bit down in the South OECS as well. And it's important to note that within the Caribbean, you know, threats to our networks, threats to our businesses are not just hurricanes. So this year we've had a pandemic. We have the hurricane season, which is geared up to be one of the most aggressive. We have earthquakes. We also have the potential of burnout of our teams. You know, there are so many different potential threats. And even with all those threats that I just listed, you look at that and think about an earthquake, right, Julian? If you have an earthquake, that's one activity. But there's the potential for social unrest to come from that. There's this potential for fires to come from that. And how do we respond and how do we recover and how do we support is absolutely essential, because telecommunications is no longer a want. Telecommunications is now considered a lifeline utility. So we need to ensure that we are building our infrastructure, we are strengthening our teams and our people, so as to ensure that this essential service is available in times of need. And it's a continuous. So what have we done? We've done a whole heap of things like I just went through, but I think the most important thing is that this doesn't stop, right? It's not as if you just pull it together in a business continuity plan and put it on a shelf. You know, you need to keep just going through it, learning from it constantly. And then I think that the other important point I would raise on this one is that you also need to share and talk. You need to bring your teams along the process, but as a collective industry, we need to talk and link and share and learn together to be able to strengthen the entire industry, which is absolutely imperative.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think this is one of the reasons why we have this CANTO conversations. We've had ministers, we've had CEOs, you know, folks from the industry sharing their ideas. And I think we're very fortunate. I'm so happy that we've got you on our program today. I mean, that's excellent. And as I'm going to do a slight commercial, just a little break here. And I want to just big up CANTO a little bit, because after all, you know, they're providing the platform for us stakeholders in the industry to actually come together and share our ideas on how we deal with COVID-19, how we deal with hurricanes. And you just mentioned, you know, the business continuity plan. But I'm just going to mention, Nikima, that if you're not doing anything next February the 7th, in point of fact, 2021, there's the CANTO mini conference and AGM. That will be on the 7th of February in Trinidad, so mark your calendars. I mean, we're hoping for the best, that we can actually have a conference. God willing, we'll be able to. So that's one. And then the other one, of course, you know, what is it now? It's the 25th of June. So right now, you know, ordinarily we'll be gearing up for CANTO, the CANTO main conference, which would have been in Miami, but of course that was postponed. And the CANTO conference and exhibition will now be held from the 25th to the 28th of July next year in Miami. So I'd just like you to mark your calendar, and I'd like our audience to also mark their calendars. Okay, that's the end of the commercial, sorry.
Julian, it's done, and I know you will remind me as the time comes up, right? So marked in the calendar and booked.
Cheers. Okay. So I'm interested in some of the initiatives what are some of the initiatives that you've really undertaken to support citizens in Dominica during this time? And are there special plans? Are there, you know, you've done specials on your handsets? I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud here. What was there anything that you found customers really liked?
Thank you, Julian. And I mean, from a commercial place, all of us would roll out different promotions to suit the circumstances. I think some of the things that really assisted our consumers the most would be one, considering that our students had to go into a remote studying mode very quickly, we would have whitelisted a number of different sites to be able to facilitate them staying connected and staying within their educational forums. Additionally, we formed a very strategic and beneficial relationship with the government of Dominica, specifically the health promotion unit, to promote the COVID awareness, both best practices in terms of prevention, as well as updates on the current statuses within Dominica. And we rolled that out across a number of different platforms in collaboration with Trend Media, who's one of our partners. And then also through the partnership with the government of Dominica on the 15-year partnership that we would have signed, the Learning Hub was a core part of this in terms of education. And we accelerated the onboarding of both the students and teachers. And to give you some background, this is an online platform that is available for every single teacher within Dominican students. So that's close to 10,000 people in total, 9,000 or like 8,500 students and just about 1,500 teachers. So we rolled out, we accelerated the onboarding of these teachers and students. And then also we accelerated the connectivity to the fiber connectivity to each and every school to ensure that there was a platform for them to be able to stay connected. And then of course we carried out a number of different initiatives in terms of, so for example, within the OECS, Sayo and her team in St. Lucia, along with us in Dominica and the other South OECS islands, pulled together a webinar series on Facebook Live, which shared a whole slew of different topics and themes. And one of the ones that I think I thought was the most pertinent and I enjoyed the most was how to take your brick and mortar business digital, right? So your business is closed, and this was specifically for entrepreneurs, right? And entrepreneurship is the driving force of the Caribbean economy, right? And even more so in Dominica. So to be able to support young entrepreneurs on how to shift and adjust and pivot under these times, and importantly, how to utilize technology and digital solutions to be able to get there, we thought was absolutely paramount. And this was available on Facebook. Anybody outside of the region, within the region, outside of the countries could join. And, you know, we hit over 1 million views across this entire webinar series.
My goodness.
It was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
I'm so fascinated with how you've been able to get involved in different areas, the Learning Hub, that's, you know, great for a different avenue for education in terms of educating our students being stuck at home. I think that's a great initiative. So linked to the network, linked to us having the capability of doing these initiatives, right? I'm going to switch to some of our stakeholders, the governments and the regulator, look at it from their perspective. You know, my question is, have they been able to assist us going forward in terms of trying to make things better for the industry during COVID in particular? Has there been, do you have any concerns, and has the regulator been able to offer any forbearance during this difficult period?
Thank you, Julian, for that question.
Anytime, Nikima.
Yeah, I know, right? So listen, I think that there is always an opportunity for continued conversation and for mutual understanding, right? And fortunately for us in Dominica, we have what could be considered a good relationship with our regulator as well as our Ministry of Telecoms. And I would hope that they would express the same thing in return, yeah?
Right.
But I think that there's always an opportunity for additional conversation. I think there's always an opportunity to understand each other's perspective better, to be able to understand because all of us have a collective objective, which is ensuring the satisfaction of our customers, right? And our citizenry and our stakeholders. So I think there's always going to be an opportunity for us to have more honest, open conversation and dialogue surrounding the direction of the industry. And again, I think it's absolutely imperative to just reinforce the fact that nobody has gone through a global pandemic before, right? So we're all learning as we go.
Unless you're 110 years old, you may have gone through one.
Yeah,
but
and
anyway,
that's a valid point as well, right? So I think there needs to be a level of understanding that all of us are navigating this situation for the first time. And, you know, everybody may make mistakes and may make a wrong move or a wrong decision, whatever the case may be. But the important thing here is coming back and learning from it to ensure it's not replicated, you know? And again, this kind of conversation and this mutual understanding of, you know, what I go through as a telecommunications provider, what my challenges are, and how you can assist me, as well as reciprocated on the other side, I think is absolutely important. And it you know, kind of like the round table of King Arthur, right? All of us need to sit at a round table. We don't need to be sitting across each other. We need to be equals at a table for the industry to be able to drive the industry forward for the benefit of all our customers, as well as the countries within which we operate. And that needs to be the overarching goal here.
Yeah, I'm sure actually that regulators, government officials, all of us, you know, want to see us come together, and maybe it's creating the opportunities. I mean, naturally, the way that our technology is moving, though, the way that it's developing, it's difficult for regulators to keep pace in terms of you know, the technology. So I agree with you. I think we need to be sitting down more often with our regulators, government officials, etc., and seeing how best you know, we could really move this industry forward. So I'm looking at the time, Nikima. I'm having time goes by when I'm talking with you, and so we've got about 20 minutes left, and I'm just wondering, Teresa, if you're on the line, if you're actually seeing some of the questions, because I'm not picking them up as I'm using my phone. Teresa?
Yes, Julian, I'm seeing the questions, and we have a few. The first one.
Yes, please go ahead.
Is from Facebook, and it's advice we're looking for Nikima. My daughter is studying her first year of engineering. What would you tell her about the challenges to grow a company in a post-pandemic world?
Thank you so very much for that, Teresa. And that is a super, super tough question. And the primary reason for that is that I don't think there's a post-COVID world. It's more about coexisting with COVID. And I think in terms of growing a business, we need to look harder at the digital opportunity and the technology solutions that allow us to achieve the same outcomes, the same objectives, the same goals that face-to-face and or brick and mortar would allow us to do. And I think the other thing is, you know, as a young person in any field, carve your own path, right? No one's done this before. So whatever you do, you're not going to be wrong. And just carve your own path and be resolute in the direction you're headed and be steadfast in what you want to achieve and jump all in. Yeah, just jump head first and embrace it. And that's another really good point. Embrace the change.
Yes.
Yesterday, I sent out a Wednesday word to my team, right? And it was all about embracing the change, and it was by Socrates, which basically said, you know, the efforts spent trying to avoid change could be better spent in embracing change, right? And all the time we spend looking back, we're missing what lies ahead of us. So embrace the change, embrace the challenges, and look super deep to find the opportunities there to be able to succeed.
Well, that was answered really perfectly. From Angela Murray, she wants to find out about the Learning Hub. And she said, with the Learning Hub, is all the school kids involved? And are you able to reach all the kids that are enrolled in schools, such as in neighborhoods that are economically challenged? I guess she's talking about urban areas in Dominica. If you all are reaching the kids there, this is something that has come up on CANTO conversations over and over again, ensuring access to all.
Absolutely. So in terms of the Learning Hub, it's from grade 2 right up to the 5th form. So the younger kids would not be involved quite as yet, but there are plans in place to get them involved. In terms of the rural areas, that's a challenge. And it's a challenge across a number of different things, including coverage of networks. So that would be one. And then affordability for both from a device perspective as well as a connectivity perspective. So again, one of the things is that the Learning Hub is whitelisted, so there's no cost to individuals to participate on the Learning Hub across any of the different platforms. So that's one. The second thing would be that if there's a challenge with regards to home connectivity, with all primary schools and secondary schools being connected onto the government network, as well as every single government structure, including health centers, including offices and so on, there are a number of opportunities within the different communities that they have somewhere to go that would ideally have the device that they could utilize. So I don't think we're 100% there yet, and I would challenge anybody or any provider or any country that says they're 100% there, because there's always room for improvements. But we are definitely committed in ensuring that we look out for the underserved and underprivileged. And you know, that's kind of a core of Digicel. You would know that we have a Digicel Foundation in a number of our different islands, and even the islands, the markets that don't have a Digicel Foundation, you know, taking care of the most vulnerable is a core part of who we are and what we do. And it's definitely at the heart of our chairman each and every single time. So we make huge efforts. We still have some ways to go, but we want to ensure that no child gets left behind.
Excellent. And then I have a question of my own. Where do you see Digicel Dominica and telecoms in the region going forward? What trends are you seeing because of the pandemic?
So over the last number of years, data has obviously been king, right? At one point it was content was king, and now data is king. So there's definitely a want by our consumers for more, especially as more and more of the different industries and the entire world goes digital. So we definitely need to keep pace with our consumers and giving them more of what they want. And as Digicel continues to move forward to becoming the digital lifestyle partner of our consumers, we will be making more opportunities for them to engage with us as well as with each other, doing more of the things they really love to do and really providing them with more opportunities to grow and develop. Again, I am beyond proud and humbled to be the leader here in Dominica. What the team here in Dominica has achieved over the last 3 years, when you take a look at, again, that flashpoint of September 18, 2017, when there was, you know, an entire country was devastated, and Digicel was no exception, to where we are today. And you know, the future is bright with Dominica in terms of the digital transformation that it's going through, as well as its pledge to become the first climate resilient nation in the world. So I think, you know, they're just bright things ahead, and all we need to do is just embrace the opportunities that are presented within adversity to just keep moving forward in the right direction.
Excellent. How can new technology be deployed in Dominica to help promote the natural beauty of the island? Are mobile applications being developed? Everyone knows that Dominica is a green island. We had a colleague from Dominica, and we've had the pleasure of being in Dominica a couple of times, and it is really one lovely island. What can technology be used to preserve the island, and how?
So that's a great question, and especially close to my heart. I would have indicated before I started in telecoms, I was in the tourism industry of Dominica. I was the country manager for a tour operator and then head of marketing for the Discover Dominica Authority. And I currently sit on the board as the deputy chair for the Discover Dominica Authority. And that is definitely a continuous part of the conversation. And especially now when you look at borders are closed, tourism is one of the hardest hit industry, if not the hardest hit industries out of this COVID pandemic. You know, the opportunity to utilize the digital platforms to be able to promote and drive tourism and the natural beauty is just astronomical. So one of the things that we've done is there is a tourist Wi-Fi solution that is available at the key sites within Dominica, ensuring that when the tourists come in and they're visiting these natural sites, promoting them to Instagram and Facebook and take all the pictures and share, again, knowing people love to see people having fun. In terms of the digital applications that are available, you know, BIP, which is a messaging application, affords the opportunity to create different channels that promote different information. So I know we're looking at putting a tourism channel out within the BIP application. And I think the other aspect of this is creating this eco space and the atmosphere for app developers to do what they love to do. And I think that's one of the areas the entire region can do better at. Like, so everybody knows about kind of like the silicon unicorns, right? Like a $1 billion application or whatever, Google's one and so on and so forth. Why can't the next unicorn come from the Caribbean? There's no reason for that not to be able to happen. However, for that to happen is that we need to make the space for that to happen. We need to promote STEM in the schools. We need to offer coding camps. We need to offer the opportunities for young women and young boys to get excited about these type of different things. And we need to support them in testing and trying and failing and all of these type of different things. So that I think is the biggest opportunity for us is creating that space for app developers to leverage the natural resources of the countries to be able to drive that system forward.
Nikima, I just loved how you answered that. I felt the passion, and it's something I'm passionate about as well. But let me get through these questions quickly before the moderator kick me off.
You're obviously very popular, Nikima. You're getting. I'm seeing tons of various questions coming up. So that's great.
This is from. Let me just two more questions, Julian, and then I will leave. So what partnerships will Digicel be looking to establish to continue to provide continuous digitalization of the country?
So I think that the largest one and the most impactful one is obviously the partnership with the government of Dominica. You know, when you head into a 15-year partnership with the government, as they have just started their digital transformation, I think that's an opportunity, a massive opportunity right there to be able to continue driving what the customers need and want as we look. And I mean, it's just phenomenal, the opportunities that present themselves. And I keep thinking about Estonia as kind of the benchmark example. How phenomenal would it be if Dominica was the new Estonia for the Caribbean region, right? So I think that is one. But outside of that, I think that the additional opportunities that exist are you know, creative, innovative, dynamic partnerships with young entrepreneurs that are doing some really cool, interesting things. There are opportunities for us, which I'm personally passionate about, is promoting the culture of Dominica through artists and photographers and videographers and musicians. So that's another opportunity there as well. There's an opportunity to partner with some of our corporate customers in digitizing their businesses, which thereby will allow digital opportunities for their customers as well. So I think on that one, there is a massive opportunity for us. And I think where we need to do a little bit better is educating the masses on the opportunities that are available on a digital transformation and the digital ecospace and the digital direction. And I think we've started doing that. We've done a good job. However, I think there's an opportunity for all the players within the space to do that. And I'm calling on telcos, I'm calling on regulators, I'm calling on government ministries, I'm calling on the OTTs that are just taking advantage of the goodwill of the operators right now. But they need to come in and they need to contribute towards the countries within which they are doing business. And they need to develop the young persons within these countries as well, so that they can continue to grow and continue to bring benefits to the countries where they live.
Excellent. Over to you, Julian.
I thought I'd lost my job there for a minute, Teresa. No, just kidding. Teresa, thank you so much for helping me and assisting. In fact, just to Nikima, you mentioned the OTTs, and I think that's an interesting point you mentioned there about contributing and like everyone in the industry needs to be able to contribute.
You know, Julian, this is super personal for me, right? And like I look at what happened again, like, and I keep coming back to Hurricane Maria. And before this call, Julian and I were talking. Hurricane Maria was a flashpoint for Dominica. It's either pre-Maria or post-Maria. Those are the two. And after Hurricane Maria, you know, my chairman came into Dominica like 7 days after the storm, right? And Dennis came in and his first question is, how are your staff? You know what I mean? Like, what can we do? What do we need to do to ensure that our teams are taken care of and they have what they need to be able to survive this? And it was really about survival, right? There was social unrest, there was no electricity, no essential services. Like, I mean, it was completely devastating. And then he went across to meet with our prime minister, and his immediate question was like, what does the country need? You know, like how can we support this country in rebuilding? And when you looked at the devastating impact of our networks, it was astronomical what laid in front of us. And I was sitting beside Dennis, you know, and the prime minister is like, well, you know, our schools are all gone. Dennis looks, he's like, okay, we're going to build schools. I was like, huh, okay. And he's like, what else do you need? And he was like, you know, the roofs of the homes and those kind of different things. And in typical Dennis fashion, and I have so much respect for my chairman, and not just because he's my chairman, but because he fundamentally believes and supports the principle that businesses need to support and contribute towards the country within which they operate, right? So coming out of that, and keeping in mind that I need to rebuild a mobile network, I need to rebuild a fixed services network, and now I've just had to rebuild schools. We rebuilt 6 schools, and we re-roofed over 110 homes in one of the most vulnerable communities in Dominica, which was the Kalinago territory, right? And we did that because it was the right thing to do, not because we had to. I definitely did not need another project to undertake in rebuilding my networks and taking care of my teams, right? But it was the right thing to do, right? So like when I look around at some of these OTTs, who did they talk to? What did they contribute to rebuilding a country? You know, and when you look at the number of consumers that utilize their services in Dominica and the length of time their services are utilized, they have a fundamental right to assist in ensuring that this country's okay after such a devastating impact. However, no one's holding them accountable, no one's holding them to task, and no one is demanding that they do that. And the opposite is you don't have to do that with Digicel. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And because we have a business where each and every single person within the business understands that the countries within which we operate and the citizenry of those countries are important, yeah? And they need to be taken care of. So I know I've gone, sorry, Julian, a little bit of a tangent, but
not really.
It gets me. It really, really gets me.
No, what you said about Digicel, we know that Flow, they've been rebuilding their networks. They contribute to society. We know that APUA in Antigua, be it Telesur in Suriname, be it Telem in St. Martin. These are stakeholders that they're all contributing, and you know, it's just not a level playing field when it comes to OTTs. But my dear Nikima, we have really run out of time, but it's been an absolute joy and a pleasure talking to you today and having a conversation. And I know that our audience would have enjoyed the conversation as well. So I want to thank you very much. I know you've got a really busy schedule, and I just really appreciate you spending the time with us today, Nikima.
And Julian, thank you so much, and a huge, massive thank you to the entire CANTO team. One, for thinking of me. Two, for making this absolutely so easy for me to participate. And like I would have indicated to Teresa before we started the call, you know, these kind of conversations is definitely one of the perks of my joy, of my job, and it's my pleasure, and I am beyond appreciative to have been a part of this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Nikima. Wonderful. To our audience, thank you very much for your time this morning. Remember that our next webinar will be on Tuesday, 30th of June at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will have Mr. Kieran Rose from Trinidad and Tobago. He's a business educator, and Kieran will be exploring entrepreneurship and innovation in the Caribbean. And of course, Nikima was talking about that today. And then following on from Kieran's conversation, on Thursday, the 2nd of July at 11 a.m., please join the conversation when we will focus on Digicel St. Kitts and Nevis. Our guests will be Dion Emtaj, CEO, Digicel St. Kitts and Nevis. And yes, another woman leading.
Another phenomenal woman leading a telecommunications company.
I couldn't have said that better. So we look forward to Dion's conversation, and where she'll share her perspectives and insights on her company, how they managed through the crisis, and what's the future for network operators post-COVID-19. So with that, thank you very much. Work from anywhere, stay safe, and stay connected with CANTO Conversations. Goodbye.